There are a variety of opinions about cover letters. Some reviewers feel they are a critical component of the application. Some reviewers only read them if the resume has caught their attention. And there are some reviewers who don't even read them at all. Most reviewers prefer attention-grabbing opening paragraphs and prefer a standard, straightforward introduction. It's important for students to see cover letters as an important part of the application process because you simply don't know the preferences of the employer. For some, the cover letter can actually make or break a candidate's choices. In this tutorial, we're going to give you some information on how to write the perfect covering letter. We'll go through the basics of what a covering letter should be, what its purpose is. We'll discuss a little bit about how to format the letter, starting the body and then the end. We'll talk about the paragraphs and how they should look and how they should be laid out. And then we'll give you a couple of hints and tricks and things to keep in mind. Back in the day when we mailed in paper resumes and covering letters, the cover letter introduced the candidate and shared the position for which they were applying. Although we can do this now, we do this much easier in a subject line, particularly when we're applying via email. Or maybe we're uploading our resume onto an application system. Cover letters are an excellent way to add depth to our application while also demonstrating our written communication skill. They also show a bit of personality and values in the writing style, word selection, and topics that a candidate chooses to discuss. Typically, a reviewer will read the resume first and then come back to the resume and cover letter if they're interested. A covering letter can hold more weight in certain fields and positions, particularly where one's written communication is very important. Cover letters shouldn't be a list of everything on your resume, but instead it's used to tell your story. Students might talk about how they became interested in this field, growing up visiting national parks, and that sparked an interest in their forestry, for example. Or perhaps they had a family member struggling with addiction, and that led to their passion for social work. Or maybe they grew up playing with computers and have turned that into a career field. This kind of information is very good to a recruiter from the get-go. Also, maybe you knew you wanted to study philosophy and a guest speaker sparked an interest in medical ethics, which led to a summer internship in the field that you want to work in. Or an engineering curriculum in a class spoke about a special project that has turned into a job. You might also want to go into detail on a specific experience, such as tutoring another student or doing work experience. Talk about your challenges and successes that you faced, or perhaps a time when you led a group in a project for a class at hotel school as a way to demonstrate your leadership style. All these kinds of stories bring out your work characteristics, values, and personality, which is what makes you stand out as an individual. What's the purpose of a cover letter? Well, compelling cover letters answer the questions why you and why not somebody else. You need to focus your attention on your most relevant and compelling qualifications. What value can you bring to an organization? Not what you want or what you can gain. Also, you need to be sure to include a sentence in a full paragraph on why you want to work with this particular organization. Why them? Why them in particular? Talk about them. Talk about the employer. Be sure to match your tone to the organization. For example, corporate banking tends to be more formal than marketing or nursing. Or don't confuse a formal with professional. All letters should be written with a professional voice and focus. Don't use slang or abbreviations or a casual tone. You must include why you want to work for this particular organization. Sometimes we come across applicants who are applying for dream organizations. In other words, just talk to anybody who wants to work with Disney, right? Or NASA. But sometimes the equation is pretty simple. You want to work in a hotel because the position has got, the employer has got a position that aligns with your qualifications. Very simple. Not every job is the dream job, and not every person has a desire to feel passionate about their job and workplace. That's fine. That's okay. But you still want to include at least one sentence that demonstrates that this letter that you're writing was tailored to this job application for a particular organization, and that you have done a little bit of research about the organization. There's nothing worse than getting a letter that is generic, that has been created by somebody and sent out to 15 different employers for 15 different kinds of jobs. It's not going to pass the muster, that is for sure. Here's a little learning activity for you. Take a piece of paper, sit down, and think about why you chose to study hotel management or a topic in hotel operations. Why did you choose this? What was the reason for it? Then I want you to ask yourself, do you think that you're a good fit for this course or project or exam that you're about to take? Of course you do. And those are the things that will make you stand out in a job application. Those positive things that you've just thought about, include them. Why are you a good fit? Why did you want to do this course? So on and so forth. That's what we're talking about. Why does it matter to make a connection with your employer? Well, it's very simple. As individuals, when we first meet someone, we tend to like people who are similar to us in some way. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships showed that there are 3 reasons why similarity might increase liking. First of all, consensual validation. Meeting people who share our attitudes makes us feel more confident in our own attitude about the world. If you love jazz music, meeting a fellow jazz lover shows that you're loving jazz. It's okay. Might even be a virtue. Cognitive evaluation. This focuses on how we form impressions about other people by generalizing from the information that we have. So we learn that a person has something in common with us, and that makes us feel positive about that person, because we feel positive about ourselves when we assume that the other person, like us, has other positive characteristics. And then last but not least, of course, it's the certainty of being liked. We assume that someone who has a lot in common with us is more likely to like us, and in turn, we are more likely to like people if we think they like us. Companies like people who can connect with their mission, culture, and employees. That's the bottom line. There are 3 main ways to make a connection with a potential employer. Firstly, share a story that shows that you connect with their brand or their culture. So a typical example of this, for example, is to notice how their website is written. Read the company's mission statement and about page, and look for social media accounts or a blog. Look for the tone, keywords, areas of emphasis, so on and so forth. Note the organization's tone and see if they focus on being cutting edge, innovative, competitive, community focused, nerdy, passionate, all these kind of things. You can then share a story to connect to that culture value. Secondly, tell them how you came to learn that they were special amongst their competitors. You might have a personal experience with the company, or this might be from research that you conducted and found that the organization has won awards or received recognition from the industry or from clients or from customers. And thirdly, demonstrate why you value them and the work that they do. Instead of showing a connection to the culture, you might show a shared understanding of the importance of the work that the organization does. For example, many people at NASA prefer to be known as people that go beyond the boundaries of where man has been before. All right, it's this kind of thing where you show why you value an organization or a particular property and the work that it's done. Now we move on to the story of business formatting of your actual letter. It's very important that your letter comes across as being professional. And the best way to make sure the letter is professional is to A, spell check, B, make sure that your grammar is correct, C, make sure that the formatting is correct. In other words, the justification, it's all left justified. Everything's in line. Make it look good. There's no harm in using pro forma documents out of the Microsoft Word stable. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. After all, they're there for a reason, right? So start with your name and your address, and then you put today's date, the date of your application. The next thing you do is you go down to the person who's doing the employing. So it'll be that person's name, if it's been given, their title, the organization, and any address that they've given. If it's going through by email, say per email instead of PO Box, blah, blah, blah. You then start with a greeting. Dear Mr. Smith, if you know the recruiter's name, or Dear Recruiter. That induction paragraph, then the body, the closing paragraph, and the salutation. Always sincerely yours, or yours sincerely, and then your name. Now, obviously, styles can differ based on the type of company. Sometimes companies have a standard that they want you to complete online. That's fine, use it. But you need to be formal and you need to be traditional in your presentation. Don't use colors, don't use wonderful designs. Make sure that the font is either Times New Roman, if not anything else, but we would suggest Times New Roman, and the size between 10 and 12 points. This is standard. It makes sure that it's looking as importantly professional as possible. So if we look at the header and the greeting in a little bit more detail, you'll see that we've got the three sections split out: the address and the name of yourself, right? Then the date of what you're applying for, and then the actual recruitment company or recruiter or potential employer at the bottom. If you can't find an address, then we suggest you go online, look in LinkedIn or Google or wherever online, and try and find the address of the organization. If you can't, then just use per email and leave it at that. We move on to the paragraph by paragraph section of the letter. In other words, the body of the letter. Firstly, the opening paragraph. Here you should state the position in which you're replying, where you found it, where you heard about it. Perhaps name drop if you have a direct connection, and then close with a hook. And the hook would be interests me very much or excites me to submit this application for consideration, something like that. You can also use your interest in the organization as a hook, showing a little bit about the background that you've done on the research that you've done on the company to show your interest and to catch the employer's attention. The academic introduction: state the college you're attending, your degree, relevant classes you've completed. Not every opportunity that you get is directly connected to what you've studied. But if you do want to highlight your qualification for the position, then I suggest you include it here. The main body paragraph is all about connecting your skills, characteristics, experiences, qualifications to the company and the company as a whole. It also highlights what interests you particularly in working with this organization. And then the conclusion and formal closing, you should really reaffirm your qualifications and your interest in the position with the company. Be sure to include your contact information, and you could also offer to follow up with the employer, but end the letter formally. So for example, you could say, I will follow up in 1 week to ensure that you've received my material, or perhaps a little bit more forcibly, you can say, I'll follow up in 1 week to inquire about scheduling an interview. Of course, that's completely up to you, but you shouldn't be doing something like that if the advertising post says no phone calls or emails. This means that they will be contacting who they want to contact. But if you do include it, then make sure you follow up on the date that you say you're going to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. For the signature, you should include between 2 and 4 blank lines between your final salutation and your name. If you can include a digital signature, it's always much better, just by copy and pasting it into the blank space. Or if you have to print a letter, sign it and then scan it. But the common salutation is either sincerely, thank you, and best regards. Sweet, simple, and to the point.